midi-to-dmx. It's a big old project. Just going to start working on it now. And I know it's going to be a lot of work. Not quite as simple as just midi-to-dmx. There's a lot of factors to consider. It's a quick bit of history. In the past, the band's run various devices, laptops, MacBooks, iPads, cymatic playback units. The reason being we want to do click multi-track out, and in more recent years, going back 10 years, running videos, visuals, and a system that can be dependable. So over a year ago, so the B-Beat came to my attention, and that's been the all-in-one solution. I know the Pro End, if you go search the internet, you can find some Pro End acts, I mean like touring big bands. They're running various software, QLab I think it is, on the MacBook, fail-safe fallback systems and stuff like that. But you know, the hardware alone is probably a couple of grand. Then you got the software, which is probably half as much again. And it's a heavy commitment and probably not viable for a lot of people. So the B-Beat has been great. It does video output, multi-track output. It's fairly robust. It's been very dependable last year. And the long-term plan was, which I'm now about to do, was MIDI out to DMX. I don't remember the first unit I bought having this converter, but I probably made one up. But this came with the latest purchase. I don't know who started using these mini jacks as MIDI outputs. Just, I guess it's compact in that, but it's not really robust, and it's not what I call an industry standard. Well, it isn't standard, but it's not. You see a MIDI socket, you know what you're going to get. So yeah, that is MIDI out. There's no MIDI in unless you use a USB thing, which is a topic for another conversation. Plug that in there, and we've got a MIDI out. So already on this device, we've got our audio and video, and the next task is to get a full lighting show driven by MIDI, so we can still control it from here with ideally the minimum extra hardware. So that means not involving PCs, lighting controllers and consoles. On a side note, we have already synced the lighting show. We've had proper lighting engineers, professional lighting engineers do our shows for the last few years. They've got shows saved, and we've synchronized that using SMPTE, which you can find on one of the other videos. I'll leave a link in the description. That's great. That's fantastic, because that means all the lighting's not our responsibility. We just send the audio stripe as an audio signal out from the B-Beat, and they take care of it. But if we want to get that set up ourselves, we'd have to invest in the lighting console, buy the lighting shows, let alone the fixtures, and it's not, again, not financially or practical. So we want something that's we're going to be self-contained. So the current setup of the band is these fixtures you can see on the screen here. Again, apologies, I've not got screen capture software, but obviously you can see my hand in front of the thing as well. So we've got some lighting bars. Each fixture is a different color on here. You can see there's different DMX channels for each segment. So this is a major consideration for anyone running MIDI to DMX. You know, for example, this first fixture is a cam bar. It's one of the really old. We've had it in the band for like 15 years. Of the 15 DMX channels available, you've got auto mode, the master dimmer, and it does run in more or less channel modes, but this is one that gives us the most control. It's a strobe function on channel 3. Then you've got RGB 1, RGB 2, RGB 3, and RGB 4, and that controls the whole light. That's just one fixture, 15 channels there. There's some standalone power lights, 1, 2, 3 different units of those. There's some floor bars that we sometimes use. Again, same kind of thing, RGB, 4 segments. It's got macros in there, fade speed, strobe, and a variety of other parameters we need to address. Moving heads, again, they got different parameters, pan, tilt, colors, gobos. So there's no two fixtures are exactly the same, and this is something you might encounter. We've got geezers, we use them at most gigs, which sort of pump smoke and make a bit of a noise when they go off and look very effective. I've even got a dummy amp front there, which I can add some colour to. And these are the other units we use on a very regular basis, pretty much every gigs. They're called the well sticks. They're big, like long poles. It looks like a lightsaber from Star Wars. And they do various colours. You can see here, you've got control of the red, green, blues, whites, color temperature, strobe, the master dimmer. They've got macros built in, and we've got 2 of those on different channels, so they take up a few channels. And there's another set of LED bars and bits and bobs there. So there's a lot of stuff there. Now, to control it with the lighting console is a big enough job. I think you can load in personalities, but we're not talking about that here. We're talking about midi-to-dmx. So there are some gadgets out there, and one caught my eye was the, I think it's a Dory midi-to-dmx converter. But it takes quite a bit of setting up. I've not purchased it. I've got another solution I'll talk about in a moment. Basically, every MIDI note on, note off, or CC number or program change can be converted to a DMX channel. Care needs to be taken though, because MIDI is, if I'm remembering right, 7-bit values. So you've only got a range of 0 to 127. Or 1 to 128, that's the resolution. Whereas DMX is 8-bit, so it goes from 1 through to 255, so it's double. So therefore, sending out values from 1 to 128, it needs scaling somewhere. And the Dory MIDI that I mentioned earlier, it multiplies the MIDI value to a factor that you want to choose. And I think the default is like multiplied by 2.01. So obviously 0 multiplied by that is 0. 1 will be 2.0.1, which will be rounded up to the nearest whole number 2, and then 2 will be 4, 3 will be 6, and so on. So the highest number, 127, 128, that'll be scaled to 255. So you can see up here that they're roughly doubled. So that's how you want to scale these numbers. But then you got to think, do you want to do it by a CC number, program change, note on, note off, or other MIDI options? And these are all things that need to be taken into account. So mapping wise on our system, let me bring up the screen there. Why is that not coming up? Okay, so what I've done on our system is use a variety of note on, note off values and CC values. So when you're in your DAW, some things are easier to see than others. So I'm just going to jump to the DAW I use, which is Cakewalk Sonar. It's actually version 8. It's a 20-year-old bit of software. I know my way around it really well, and it's proved to be quite good in the MIDI department. So what I've got on here is, before we get there, how do I get there? This little box. You'll never find one of these anywhere else on the planet, because it's homemade built, and basically it does what the Dory MIDI thing does. It converts MIDI in signals to DMX out. Ignore the button, it's like an emergency stop or reset that I'll put on there. But what data does it take to convert to what DMX? I'll tell you. So it's a sign that MIDI note 0 through to 127, the highest note number possible, gets assigned to respectively DMX channel 1 through to 127. The values are scaled by the factor I mentioned earlier, multiplied by 2.0.1. So therefore, the velocity, by the way, so if I hit on note 1, with a velocity of 0, which is the same as a note off, it's going to send a DMX value of 0. If I hit note 1 with a velocity of 64, it's going to output about 129 in terms of DMX values. And if I whack the note on at full velocity 127, then it's going to output DMX value of 255. So I've got control of those. Also, I'm doing the same thing with the MIDI CC numbers. So CC1 also does the same thing. You might ask, why do I do it twice? Well, you'll see why that is in a moment. MIDI CC1, its value is multiplied by the same factor and sent out to the respective DMX channel. To access, which I don't need to at the moment, to access anything above DMX channel 128, I'm going to do the same thing but on another MIDI channel. So I'm operating on MIDI channel 11, note on, note off, and CC 1 to 127. and they go up to the DMX channels respectively. DMX channel 129 onwards is MIDI channel 12, and these could be any channels that you choose, note on, and CC 1 to 127. So that covers 129 DMX to 255. As I said, I don't need those at the moment. So we've got some new lasers coming, and that's going to be another massive job that's going to go on there, but let's get heads around this for a start. So yeah, I've labeled all these up. You can see where my MIDI note on, or my CC value, what DMX channel it relates to, and the parameter of that light fixture on there. A bit like we saw on the previous page, but in a listing section there. Some of these are not used, and I'll talk about those in a moment. Another variant. So in our DAW, if we want, for example, to turn on our first lighting fixture, the cam bar, to all red, we need to send quite a lot of information just for that one simple command. We've got to tell it the mode we want it in, the dimmer value, the strobe, and then we've got to set the RGB 4 times just for that one command. If we need it to be a green color, blue, or any other variation, we need to reassign those. So this took quite some time to set. These are all note on, note off values. That's easy to see when you're looking on a piano roll. If I just kind of view the piano roll. Now the cool thing with Cakewalk is, because it was designed originally as a MIDI sequencer back in the 90s, you can label all your notes instead of C1, C sharp, D, D sharp, E flat, and so on. You can actually give the name and an instrument definition. Again, subject for another video. I'll go hunt it down in the Cakewalk archives. So I can see here all my note names are actually labelled. I've labelled them as the DMX channel and the fixture and its function. So here we can see on here, this is these are all controlling that cam bar, the auto mode, the dimmer. Now, the only thing I can't see here is what values at a glance they're going out, the velocity values. I need to click on each note on, if you like, individually, and edit it or set the velocity of that that note on. I could go into list view, which is a bit more information, and this will tell me here, like for example, at that moment in time, I'm putting a note on value, which equates to DMX channel 4, the cam bar red, with a velocity of that, which will be then multiplied to give it the DMX value. So there's a lot of stuff there, and to get through that, it's going to be a headache. If they were put out as CC values, then we could see a bit more control and definition there, but they're all going to be stacked up. If I did this as CCs, I think I can have a separate window. This is just the velocity window here. But if it's a CC for each DMX channel, then I could have multiple CC1, CC2, CC3. So I can see all the individual values there. Again, it's a massive sort of project to do that, and I'm finding it's not the most efficient way to do it. So for one song, for a start, I've got to design each fixture with a particular light, and then I can copy and paste these into various parts of the song. So for example, if that part of the song here, I want to make a certain fixture, a certain color or brightness, I need to create that with those note off values, which relate to the DMX values, pop it in there. If I've got the same section of song at a later position, I can copy and paste it. So maybe if I doing it all to a sequencer, and something else I'm suggesting working on is making sure you've got an audio track on here. Again, I'll show this soon, where you can see the waveform, you can hear it. You can actually put these in real time, if you like, with the audio. Also the click, because we'll always run to click tracks, the song template will be in proper MIDI time. So bar 1, bar 2, bar 3, I can see what's going on, and the click, it all fits in sync, which I'm going to need when I export it to the BB at a later date. So this is my first attempt, and this took me a whole day. In fact, driving all the way from the UK over to Belgium for a little mini tour gig, I'd done all this, and it took that much time to do. So I thought of a better way to do it. Let's take a look at that now. So that's the note on, note off value, and I've coloured these so I can see what they are. But this is just one fixture. I've got to do that for all my fixtures, which you can see, you know, I've got a lot to deal with there, and I don't want the hassle just yet. So let's open my other project up, which is another attempt. So here we can see, here's the audio file. This is a recording of the gig, a live show. Again, because we played to click track, it's always got to be in time, never any faster, any slower. I know the tempo. The tempo for this particular piece is 196.6 BPM. So all my bar measures there fit in. Also, while I'm doing this, I can test it in real time. I've got the fixtures connected via my MIDI to DMX converter. I can see it happening in real time. So let's take a look at how I've done that. So the first part of the song, I managed to, where we was looking at the last project, we're about to create a scene by grouping a load of colours together, as you saw on there. What I've done in this little box, which is something the Dory MIDI thing doesn't do, or probably you can do it, but it's I don't think it's designed to do that. It's designed to do like a one-to-one conversion. So you tell it what MIDI signal you want, outputs what. So you could have your like note on 1 is turned into DMX out 1. Also control CC1 is output to note 1. And you could probably do it so maybe note on 2 outputs maybe channel 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 at set values. And that's something I built into this. Now, I'm not a computer geek. You probably think we were a nerd doing this. But I've got enough just to understand to be able to kind of make use of a small Arduino Nano controller which sits inside here. It basically, like I said, converts my chosen MIDI to DMX. But also, I've built into it some scenes. So, for example, what I've called scene 1 will output to an array of my fixtures of choices of the colour of my choice. And I can call that up with the program change. So with just one MIDI output, change program 1, that will call up what I've labelled as scene 1. If I want a different set of colours, you know, dimmers, lights, all the fixtures, which have, again, it's took a lot of homework to program those scenes into this little box, but all the hard work's done there. I've been using this for some time actually in various formats. So I can call up program 2 and that will call up scene 2, which will give me a whole host of lighting. So let's go and look out on here. So at the beginning of this show, let's find it, not that one, this one here. So right at the start of the track, on my MIDI outs, again, all on channel 11, which refers to DMX 0, 1 to 127. The first thing I do, because it's our opening track, I send out program change 14, which calls up scene 14 on here. And then I've got a master dimmer. Now just going back to this other sheet, again, we go down the rabbit hole, it's getting really deep, and I'll tell you why. Some of my DMX fixtures, you might notice, there's some channels that have not been used. Now I've assigned these to a special function. And this really gets quite interesting and a bit heavy and a bit deep. So for MIDI note on 75, although it's assigned to DMX output 76, it doesn't actually control a fixture. But what it does, it calls a little scene in here, which sets a load of fixtures to a predetermined state. And that's what I'll call my strobe. So if I get a note on value greater than 64, it will tell all the fixtures that have the strobe function to strobe. And when that note off comes on, or a velocity of less than 64, that will go off. Similarly, note on 76, which would have gone to DMX 77, initiates the geysers, the smoke machines, and a value of greater than 64 will engage a scene which all my geysers come on, emit smoke, and go to a chosen colour. And then the note off, or velocity less than 64, they go off. Similarly, note on 77 does a second set of geysers, a different colour. Also, one of the other fixtures, those well sticks I talked about, they've got RGB and a white output. So I can kick in the white on full brightness by using note on 78, and that will emit the brightness intensity relative to the velocity. So full velocity there'll be full brightness, half velocity there'll be half brightness, and the idea is I can do some flashes and strobe work for effect there. Note on 79, that's going to be assigned some other function later on. So we go back to our DAW. Hopefully this camera's staying in focus. I send out program change 14, calls up scene 14. Oh yeah, and another thing, which I've not kind of, blimey, where are we? It's getting heavy. MIDI CC1, although assigned to the CAN bar dimmer, actually is assigned to all dimmers of all the units available. So instead of having to do a separate dimmer for every single lighting fixture, in my little box here, MIDI CC1 controls all dimmers of all units, so I can do it in one move. Back to the DAW. So you can see down here, I initiate scene number 14. I'll quickly pull down the master dimmer, which is CC1, you can see here. In fact, if I just open that up in piano roll view, you can see that in a bit more detail. So right at the start of my song, we start with the master dimmer on 0. I call it scene 14. As the scene starts, I'm swelling up the lighting and down, and this kind of goes to fit with the music. As the song moves on, we can see that the lighting intensity increases and decreases with the various parts of the song. At another point, still part of the intro, I call up program 8, which changes to scene 8. Another set of fixtures go to different set of colours, and still I'm varying the brightness as part of that intro. Getting up to the 40-second bar, and this is also actually part of a walk-on track. This is the opening track for the band. I call up scene 14 again, so we go back to the first colours. And then I've got some flashes that go in time with some drums, some hits on the backing track. So you can see, hopefully on the audio, there's a few little stabs and hits. And here we've got the note on, note off values for those white flashes I was talking about earlier on. So I'm hitting note 78. And when it comes on, it flashes the lights. When the note off, it'll turn the lights off. And again, that's a one note on controlling a variety of DMX channels in my little magic box. So ba-ba-bum, ba-ba-ba-bum, ba-ba-bum, and the lights are flashing in time with the back in there. So I've got control over those. That carries on for a bit. At the end of that little section of song, there's a different note on come on, and that note on is the strobe on. So for the last bar 62 to bar 63, I've engaged preset program 1, scene 1 on here, which is actually all the lights on white, and then strobe, flash, 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 flash for the duration of that note on, note off, and then we change to scene 3, program 3, scene in the box. That carries on for a few more bars. We've got a few more flashes, and then this is where it switches from like the walk-on intro, goes into the the act walk-on stage and it starts. So preset 13, program change 13 comes up, calling scene 13. A few more flashes. Now at this point, the click starts in the drummer's ear. So you get the cue up, and you can see here from a recording of a recent gig, the drummer started playing there. At this point, my overall, I've got my scene, the overall brightness is up, and I'm kind of fading it down slowly. And then the guitar comes in, and at this point, we'll call up another scene. So as soon as the guitar starts at bar 121, program 8 calls scene 8, an array of fixtures of a predetermined colour with the fader down here. And I think actually as it does that, the fader jumps up. Yeah, so we're going fader down, and then we go to 100% intensity brightness. still the opening part of the song. And then when the main intro comes in, we're changing presets, programs, calling it a different scene on beat 1 and beat 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the lights are flashing in time with the music at this point. And then the singer starts at the verse, and there we go to a static scene, scene 13, another array of fixtures on there, all the while we're at maximum brightness. And then we're into the song, so things are slowing up now, getting a bit easier. Bar 153, we're calling up scene number 10 by sending program 10 to our magic box, calling up the lights. And this is the bridge. And just before we leave the bridge, there's a few hits. Bum, bum, bum. And we'll flash the whites on those well sticks we talked about earlier. Here's the chorus at bar 157. We've got the same as what we did on earlier. We've got the beat, program 9, program 12, scene 9, scene 12, alternating on beat 1 and 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and so on. There's a little break. We've got a static scene there. And then the next verse and so on. That takes us through to the end of the song. So you get the general idea there. But what the point is, I'm not having to send out all the data of all the fixtures all the time. I've made it simple for myself by calling up preset 3 because I've got a pre-built scene in my little black box here. Program change 13, calls up scene 13. And without going too heavy into it, because I think I'll leave it for another video, I'll start wrapping up now. You know, scene 13 will tell all of my fixtures, and there's a lot of them you've seen on there, all to go to predetermined value. The master dimmers on each one, that's a separate one we've already talked about there. Now, obviously this is an audio DAW, but say it's built from MIDI, so I'll just save this as a MIDI project and all that data goes out there. And today I had my first attempt at putting it into the BB and it worked brilliant, spot on as I expected. But it took quite a few hours, as you can imagine, you know, building this box, there's many man hours going into creating that, the scene calls, you know, MIDI note on, note off, CC values, convert to DMX, plus a few other functions, you know, like calling up the strobes with a preset. Excuse me, you know, various note on values, doing non-DMX functions, i.e., you know, calling up the strobes, the geezers. There's all the man hours in there, but I've got a starting template. So for my next song, I can hopefully just call up some simple functions. You know, what preset, when to change, the intensity, and a few little flashes. And I'll program those geezers in as well, the same as note on, note off, so I can have a shoot of smoke at predetermined times. And, you know, there's kind of minimal information in the DAW. This is what's going to be spending my time doing. I've done the homework on here. How we get on with the next song, I don't know. I mean, this took a few hours to do, but obviously you only get to do it once, and I can go and edit this at a future date if I need to. Sorry. So there's a quick rundown on how I'm doing it. Whether I change my method in the future, quite possible. But that seemed a lot more than my first initial kind of a way to do it, which was send DMX, every single DMX channel for every single fixture every time I want something. And the amount of data in there is just is staggering. And then there's a lot of room for error. I can't be done with that. So there we go. That's just my little setup. As I say, when we get hopefully get to put some lasers on the system, and the you know, control the smoke machines. Like to hear how you do yours. That's taken 30 minutes to explain that. That's quite thorough. Hopefully you get some tips and ideas from there. And hopefully when I build my next song, it's going to be a bit quicker than what it's taken me so far. The process gets quicker. So, comments in the description. Leave your comments. Check out the link for the Dory MIDI thing I mentioned. Worth investigating. Anybody with Arduino knowledge or basic programming, use that. I mean, you might be able to get a PC or something to do the same thing. You know, MIDI in, DMX out. What goes on in there? That's going to be unique to you. This is not going to fit anybody's light and shade. This is our fixtures, our addresses, and you know, I've had to build the personalities into the unit. Signing off. I'm running out of breath now. Till next time.